Welcome to the current affairs series. I will make videos on different months of this month of the year of this year. So currently this is the current affair of your August 2020, and I will take different topics from the previous months also. Right now the fourth topic for this current affair is your India's longest ropeway that has been made on Brahmaputra river, and this is the water longest ropeway, and the land ropeway is the longest one will be in Ladakh. Similarly, the National Clean Air Program that has been started by our government, in which ministry it will come, National Digital Health Mission will be your present, and then particularly vulnerable tribal groups, that is your PVTG. So what are the definitions of PVTGs, what are their lifestyle, we all will discuss in this current affair topic. Okay, so India's longest ropeway, the context is like from where it has been come. So recently India's longest ropeway was inaugurated across the river of Brahmaputra. Okay, so the details are like Assam government has inaugurated a 1.8 kilometer ropeway across the Brahmaputra river. So mark a point here, it is the longest ropeway on the water. So it is on river, so it is the longest ropeway on water. The longest ropeway on land is present in Ladakh. Okay, make a key point here. So your longest ropeway on water is is on Brahmaputra river, is in Assam, and the longest ropeway on the land will be in your Ladakh, and it is the most advanced and longest river crossing aerial tramway system in India. So there will be box kind of things, and it can include up to 30 passengers, which comprise of 2 cabin members who will control all those things. Like controlling will not be a part of it, but 2 cabin members will be present. Okay, and it used twin track single hull bi-cable double reversible jig back. So it is, these are the technologies, these are the wires that has been used. Okay, and these part, that ropeways and all, is the key point to attract tourists also. So this inauguration is a part where government is also going to earn. The government is also going to attract the tourist to their place, and the economy of the government will improve. So the regions that we have to remember, that it connects Kachari Ghat, that is in Guwahati, to Dol Govinda temple, which is located on the northern bank. See, this Govinda temple will be your point of attraction. This ghat will be your point of attraction, which is connected by this ropeway. Okay, and it also passes through the famous Umananda temple on a small island. Okay, so what are the 2 places that it connect? That is your Kachari Ghat, that is present in Guwahati, and Dol Govinda temple. Okay, and it passes through also Umananda temple on a small island. Okay, this was the main point to remember from the current affairs point of view. If any government exam will come, they will not ask like which was the longest river that is ropeway is present. They will ask like on which ghat, which place it has been present. Mostly they can ask, and it is not like sure, like they won't ask like on which river or on which place. Okay, so why a river ropeway? What is the reason behind it? So it cuts the travel time between the Guwahati city and northern Guwahati town, which is located across the river Brahmaputra, to 8 minutes. Okay, like if the common walking people want to cross those regions, they can use this ropeway, and this will reduce their time and travel also. Traveling cost will also be reduced. So the current travel options between the 2 destinations are by ferry or by roadways. Usually that takes more than an hour in the traffic. Okay, and apart from the connectivity, it will also boost tourism in the state by providing a breathtaking view of the mighty Brahmaputra. So Brahmaputra is the main key of attraction. Okay, now we will see National Clean Air Program, NCAP. So it comes under the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Just remember this point. It will come under the Ministry of Environment and Forest, and it report on the National Clean Air Program was recently condemned by National Green Tribunal. Okay, National Green Tribunal will be a jurisdiction part. Okay, so the jurisdiction part on Clean Air Program has been conducted under the National Green Tribunal. Okay, and it has been disapproved to. I will give you the one concept, like the it has been disapproved, like the Ministry of Environment and Forest that conclude the 20 to 30% reduction of air population by 2024, and under this program it seems realistic. Like there may be certain programs that it seems like no, it is like virtual kind of things, it may not be fulfilled, there is a chance of misconception, there is a chance of doubt in the policy, but this policy, that National Clean Air Program, seems to be realistic, which can achieve the reduction of air pollution by year 2024. Okay, and the jurisdiction part will come under National Green Tribunal, and National Green Tribunal argued the Ministry of Environment and Forest that was used against the constitutional mandate under Article 21, and monitoring mechanism of enforcement was not clear. Okay, so I will just elaborate this this part. So first we will see what is pollution and when we call it as a pollution. So there will be some suspended particles present in the environment. Okay, so what will the size of that suspended particle? So let us see the definition of that suspended particle, that the suspended particle matter which are very microscopic in size. Okay, that it can be inhaled even through the small diameter, a small size or a small diameter in size. So let's see, the particulate matter 2.5 and 10 are suspended in the air. And so what will you understand by particle 2.5? So 2.5 means that it is less, that particular matter, that matter will be less than 2.5 micrometer in diameter. So 1 micrometer is equal to 10 to the power minus 6 meter. Okay, so just imagine how small these particles are. And 10 means that 10 to the that is 10 micrometer. So mainly tier 2 cities are monitored under this scheme, and for exams questions may try to confuse, like such as, remember, this is the program for the cities. Like they will not mainly ask for separate, like if you go for UPSC content, so they will not separately ask like what do you understand by National Green Tribunal in prelims and all. They will give you the name of the cities, and they will ask you to identify in which these cities it has been implemented. Okay, so remember this they will try, just remember, like there are many states that does not have a cities present. So just remember those content, they will try to confuse you with giving those options. Okay, so for example, it may try to confuse, such as, remember, this is a program of the cities and which states have no cities. So mainly northeastern states you will not find cities. So the such as in Manipur, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, and other than northeastern states you will find Kerala, Goa and Haryana. So no cities are under these states, and thus these all are not under this program. So the option will be given from this one only. Okay, to confuse you, because it is not possible to remember all the cities name. Okay, so this is the content, and it argued the right to clean air stands of recognized as a part of right to life, and failure to address the air pollution is a denial of right to life. So that will come under your Article 21. This thing was talking about that, this Article 21, that if someone is not getting clean air, so it means what, you are snatching the right to life of a person. Okay, so it will be the responsibility of the government to give clean air to the people of our nation. Okay, so through this program we are assuring our citizen to be a right to life as a fundamental right. We are providing this right to life as a fundamental right in the Article 21 to our citizen. Okay, and it also raised concern that there is no data on how much pollution has been reduced in last 2 years. So there is, like, it is saying like we have not exact data that how much pollution we have been reduced in the last 2 years or in the last 3 years. So this program will keep informed about the data also, like in what way we are reducing the pollution. It will store all those data so that the analyzation part will be done, like for this month or for this year we have not done some good remark, or the next month what were the drawbacks for this conclusion, like what were the drawbacks, so that we were unable to implement that program. So like suppose if we see that coronavirus time, we have seen that more than 40 to 60% pollution has been reduced from our country or within the world also. Okay, so the concern, it is like this proves that the major source of pollution in our environment is the motor vehicles and industries, and this is a common sense thing also, like the major source of pollution is our industries and vehicles only. Okay, so analyzation part will be there, data should be there, so that we can enhance our program if there is any drawback. So what is the way forward? So as per the National Green Tribunal, the enforcement of sustainable development principle and public trust doctrine requires a strict measure to be adopted to be given effect to the mandate of international obligation for which the Environment Protection Act 1986 and other laws have been enacted. So it means what? We have to move to the sustainable development growth. Okay, sustainable development growth is in our policy also, like government has a policy of sustainable development growth, and the public doctrine, like trust of doctrine, like we have to take care of the health of public. Okay, and the violation of laid down air pollution levels resulting in a large number of death and diseases in a number of that leads to like the people are dying because of these air pollution. So let us suppose a person A is creating pollution, and person B does not have a vehicle, and because of that person A, B is getting affected. A is being affected, but B is also getting affected without his major concern or without his taking part in that pollution. Okay, so these are the concepts like sustainable development. You will find this as in Niti Aayog. In our Niti Aayog, this is the main goal of our government. Okay, and it has been also recognized by the US that we are implementing those measures to control our pollution, and the targeted time of reduction of pollution loads need to be reduced and planned, and steps need to be implemented on the ground level. It is not like on the paper we are implementing it. No, on the ground level it should be seen, the effect should be seen on the ground level, that yes, we have made those changes, we have reduced those pollution, and it can be seen that yes, now the air is clean. So how can be seen, how can we observe, such as like if we the number of lungs related diseases is getting reduced, number of patients coming in the hospital due reasons because of respiratory issues are getting reduced. So what will these data will represent? These data will represent that yes, the government has reduced the pollution in the environment. These data will represent that yes, the pollution in the environment has been reduced, and as a effect the patient coming in the hospital related to the respiratory issues are getting reduced. Okay, now we will move towards the National Digital Health Mission. Okay, what is it? Before reading it, just keep one app in your mind, that is DigiLocker. Okay, if you don't know about this app, just download it. You will come to know that in DigiLocker, whatever you have a mark sheet, whatever you have Aadhaar card, driving license, PAN card, all things are attached there. You can find it by giving your roll number or by giving your driving license number. All things will be your in the mobile app, and that app will be authentic one. Like if you are in the traffic police, and if you forget to take your license, you can show that app, and you can, within that app, you can show your license, and this is applicable to this is recognized by the police authority. Okay, so the same concept is being implemented in our medical field. So the context is like, recently the National Health Authority NHA has released the draft health data management policy of National Digital Health Mission in the public domain. Okay, in the public domain, that our National Health Authority has released this draft health management policy. Like what are the things, what are the logics, what are the data, what are the steps are going to be taken under this policy, that is National Digital Health Mission, has been kept in the public domain. Okay, so what are the objectives of the policy? So the objective of the policy to provide adequate guidance. So it means like you had a history of let us suppose tuberculosis. Okay, and after 10 years, 15 years, again you have been attacked by the same disease. So, and you forgot about or you forgot the like the prescription given by your doctor has been lost. So what will happen if you go to the doctor? Then doctor will access your data of your previous data, and they will compare it, like what kind of effect or how much effect was done by the tuberculosis on your body at that time, or what was the level of that disease on your body at that time, and what is the current situation, why it has been repeated, what is the reason behind it. Okay, so this will enhance in analyzation of a person health. Okay, so to set out framework of the securing process of personal and sensitive personal data of individuals who are part of national digital health ecosystem. So the main issue behind this national digital health mission, or which will issue a national digital health card, is that the protection of your data. Recently it has been observed that even your Aadhaar data was leaked, was hacked in the that is black market, that is dark web net. Okay, so this security of this data is a major concern. Like you don't want to reveal your personal data of your disease, and nobody reveals what kind of disease you are going through. It is it is a private part, it is a concern of privacy. Okay, so the security part is a very crucial part that we have to take measures, like government will take steps regarding it. And the details under this policy is like it is the step in realizing the principle of security and privacy by design for the protection of the individual's data privacy, as I have said, the same thing. And it encompasses various aspects pertaining to health data, such as data piracy, consent management, data sharing and protection. So like in what way the data should be shared, what will be the security behind it. Like if you are sharing data to the doctor, it should not be like that doctor can be share or sell that data to in the market. It should be like one time. I'm giving just one scenario, like it should be like you can open that document only one time, after that document will be no longer useful. Okay, similar like of security we need. Okay, you can even implement blockchain technology here, where all the distributed system will be connected to each other. That will enhance your security only. Okay, and it seeks to provide a unique health ID to each citizen who wishes to have one, and also on board the healthcare service provides. Okay, and it will also it will have an online database of doctors, like DigiDoctors, and personal health records will be there. So these are the things that details have been given in the policy, and that has to be implemented. Okay, and so what is the significance of this policy? So it aims to empower the citizens and make the healthcare system more patient centric, and will lead to convenience for the patient. Okay, that doctors does not have to dig much deep about the health history of the patient. let us suppose it is just a starting, suppose 15 or 20 years have been have gone implemented by national digital health policy, that your card has been made. Now a patient has got that TB that has been tested positive for TB, or the doctor is unable to recognize whether the patient is suffering from TB or any cancer. So what he will do, he will go to the database and he will search for his generation history, whether his fathers had that tuberculosis or not, TB was there or not, or his grandfather was suffering from that or not. So he will check the hereditary kind of data from there. It might happen patient is not aware about that disease of his generation. So through that database, doctor can fetch those data. Okay, so it will help in that part also, and it can ensure the delivery of health services to a large population at affordable cost in small towns and remote locations, and it will lead to quality care and better access to healthcare facilities and doctors, and it provide opportunities for the innovation in the healthcare center. So it is just National Digital Health Mission will create a card and it will just act as your database. Now just suppose how many application can be built and that will use this database. Okay, suppose this is your database. Okay, this is your database. Now there may be several application can be built, application A, application B, application C. Those will fetch these data. Okay, and analyzing part will be there. How many patients are suffering from cancer and how many patient has been cured from that cancer. So all those data will be present, analysis will be done. So these are a long term goal. It can be say that we will observe these things within 1 or 2 or within 1 or 2 years. No, it will take more than 15 or 20 years. Okay, at least 10 years. So what are the challenges of the policy? The digital integration of the interfaces of various stakeholders in the healthcare sector will have to be achieved. Who are the stakeholders who are taking part in those things? Who should have the access to those data? Okay, first thing this one, then security and privacy. Another challenge, if we see though, it would be a challenge to bring the private healthcare sector under the NDHM. Okay, that is health mission, and ensure both reliability and quality of the information recorded. The low penetration of digital technology in rural areas will be a challenge in ensuring the potential of inclusivity and accessibility offered by that National Digital Health Mission. So till now also the medical facility in rural areas are challenge only. Okay, and now we are moving towards the digital one, so it will again a major challenge to implement in the rural areas. So rural areas are already suffering from internet connectivity and all. In this COVID situation, we have observed that internet connectivity has been provided, but that is not up to the speed of optical fiber. In this month only, last month only, we got that optical fiber connectivity in our Andaman and Nicobar, where I think inauguration has been done our Prime Minister Modi. Okay, so data privacy and security issues would be a prime concern in this mission project, and the digital health mission must be backed by a high quality public health infrastructure. So the infrastructure is always a problem and will always be an issue. Until and unless we won't have infrastructure, health infrastructure, we can't be able to make success this mission or project. Even in this COVID situation, we are making our school as a hospital. So it means what? It reflects that we are suffering from lack of infrastructure is present in our country. Okay, now we will see particularly vulnerable tribal groups. What is PVTG? So PVTG means they are using the technology as pre-agriculture levels. They are before our, just suppose that nomadic people, they are like nomadic people. So they are still using rocks for cultivating and living. Literacy levels are very low. Economically they are backward. Population is either stagnant or declining. They are not with their touched without technology. Like if you show them a mobile, it will be completely new for them. Okay, so these type of groups are known as particularly vulnerable tribal groups, that is PVTG. Okay, so the context: the 5 members of the Great Andamanese tribal and 4 members of Bonda tribe have tested positive for COVID-19. So this was the news, but this won't be asked in any exam, because COVID is affecting all the places. It is not a news right now. Okay, so I will tell you about that which Andaman, which are the tribes. Okay, so the details are like: Great Andamanese tribal are one of the 5 particularly vulnerable tribal group, that is PVTG, that is Great Andamanese. Here I will say like which are the 5 PVTGs group in Andaman. They are Great Andamanese, and their dialects spoken by them is Jeru. This is the point you have to mark for if you are giving any government exam like UPSC and all in the recent one. Mark this point: Great Andamanese, dialects spoken by them is Jeru. Okay, and the second one is your Jaravas, then Shompens, then Ongi, then North Sentinelese. Okay, so these are the 5 PVTGs group in Andaman. These are not important, like if you remember, best for you, but the point that I'm mentioning here to remember, just remember Great Andamanese, their dialects spoken them is by them is Jeru. Okay, and the members of Bonda, that is the 4 members of Bonda tribe have tested positive, that a tribal community residing in the hill ranges of Malkangiri district in Odisha. Okay, and they have been tested for COVID-19. This is not a news. Thus remember, like Bonda tribe of Odisha, where Bonda tribe resides, they resides in Odisha. Okay, but there are some other places you will find, but right now according to this context, just remember it. Okay, and about particularly vulnerable tribal group, there are certain tribal communities who have declining or stagnant population among these scheduled tribes, and they have a low level of literacy, possess a pre-agricultural level of technology, and are economically backward. As I said that PVTs are already a backward. They are living in a like living already a nomadic life. They are not interacted with the technology current we have. And in 1973 the Dheber Commission created primitive tribal groups, PTGs, as a separate category who are less developed among the tribal groups. Okay, and 75 such groups in 17 states and 1 union territory have been identified as categorized as PVTGs. No need to remember it. I have just mentioned as a point of knowledge to complete the context. I have mentioned those things. Okay, and the majority of this group have not attained any significant level of social and economical progress. They generally inhabit remote localities which have poor infrastructure and barely an administrative support. Okay, so this makes them the most vulnerable sections among the scheduled tribes, and a priority is required to be accorded for their protection, keeping in check the declining trend of the population and their development. And like, see, we have to take care for these groups, like otherwise they will come up with an insurgent for our country, like insurgent group. They will form act as a Maoist, or they will form like these type of organization like Maoist and all, if we are not if we are not taking care of them, and we enter into, if we try to enter into the territory and start to exploiting the resources of those region, it will automatically make them vulnerable, it will automatically make up that groups to be insurgent for us. Okay, so we have to take care for them. So indigenous people of Great Andaman Archipelago in the Andaman Islands, and they are classified as one of the Negrito peoples. Negrito peoples, I think they have their nose are little bit sharp, and some definitions are there for Negrito people. You can search it on Google, you can find it. Okay, which also include the other 4 aboriginal groups of Andaman Islands, that is, as I've said, Ongi, Jarava, Jangil and Sentinels. Okay, I've already mentioned here. Okay, And Great Andamanis were 10 distinct tribes, including the Jeru, Bia, Bo, Khoda, and Pokiwar, each of the separate language. Jera and Bo are the only surviving tribes left right now. Okay, so the language of Great Andamani Sara has been lost, and the tribe now speaks mostly Hindi. Okay, so we have exploited their tradition also. About Bonda tribe, they live in the isolated hill regions of the Malkagiri district of Odisha, and they speak Remo language, which comes under the Austroasiatic language, or like two types of in Austroasiatic language is there. One is spoken by Austrian regions, and one is like Indo-Austrian region. So this is that Austroasiatic language. You will find this thing in history. Literature part, you will starting of the in R.D. Sharma you will find it. So belonging to the Mundagiri group, it is most closely related to the Gutob language, and they are primarily forest dwellers who hunt and forage for food in the wild. See, PVTG's group, as I've said, that it is nomadic people. They are hunting today and eating today. They are not storing like us. They are not planning for the future. Whatever they are doing, they are living in the present. Whatever we are doing, whatever they do for today. Okay, and they are generally semi-clothed, and the women wear thick silver neckbands, and women are primary workers and provide food for the community. Okay, so this PVTG group is topic is mainly for the just know the definition, know this like COVID has affected them, know the Bonda tribe is in Odisha, that Great Andamanis tribe here, there 4 members, and their the dialects spoken by the Great Andamanis is in Jeru language. That's it. And these are the points for the sake of completing the information I have given. Okay, so that's it. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.